Hi everyone, happy Friday. Welcome. I'm Amy per usual.
Thanks, Jen. How are you, Jen?
I'm great. Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
believe it. Another week, honestly. This one kind of flew.
it's just crazy. But welcome and thank you. I'm not gonna go back to the intro, the mini intro, but I'm gonna start with a sketch. Watch the inspiration video to see and find out why we're doing this. I picked two objects. I didn't have time to take a picture, but I'll show you the two objects. But I'm gonna go down the list of things that I'm gonna use. 12 by 16 cotton paper, and I'm gonna paint from live this time. So I set up a side table that I have with two objects. The idea is to have one that represents a figure and one that represents something living. I was like scrambling and I wanted to do something. We want to hear about your process to collect and prepare and decide your images, your objects. But I have them from live. I'm going to take pictures before I finish this session, just in case I don't have the same light when I do this again on Wednesday, next Wednesday, or this weekend. So I will take a picture to make sure I have a record of it. So what I'm going to do is I'll just show you the objects. I'll show you. Actually, I'm just going to bring the objects right now. Well, this is my little still life with the two objects. And let me just stop by the video. So I have this figure, looks like it was an antique doll. And then I just picked a succulent. So this will be my setup. I'll take pictures later. I'll take pictures and upload them. And in that sense, before we begin, because this is going to be about composition a lot, and I'm going to try to be as emphatic and enthusiastic and diligent about why composition is important. I'm going to share the screen to just briefly talk about a couple of things, and hopefully, yeah, you can watch it. So in the inspirational video, I said that these painters from the magic realism, I think that was the school or the movement, they use different techniques and different illusions. And I want to talk about them because there's a difference between doing a still life and doing a still life that shows mystery and an enigmatic narrative behind it. For starters, check out the background. There's nothing. It's just completely empty. So that absence of everything, no edge, no corners, no table. We don't know if the surface and the wall is the same thing or not. So that's one of the things that they use to create this sense of eerie atmosphere of existential misery, as I said in the video. So consider that. I'm going to make my background completely flat. So another thing that's important is the composition. Please, please, please look at how much space it's around the objects. Okay, so plenty on top, nicely spaced at the bottom. There's nice space between the flower and the edge, and also not as much on the other side. And why is this important? Because the minute you crop something, you invite the viewer to continue imagining what's beyond. And what we want here is just to focus on the spotlight, which is on the objects. So not to mention that when you crop something, it becomes more of a photographic illusion. So the viewer could imagine that something happens outside, and there's a lot of subconscious thoughts that arise when there's something cropped. So plenty of visual space for my eyes to just go around and observe every of the objects with my eyes from the outside. uh, this is not something that was in a book that the magical realist is kind of like say, okay, let's just leave that much space and let's make the background flat. I'm just observing it, analyzing it, and telling you this. Same thing here. There is on the background one line that separates table from background, but there's nothing there. There are no details, absolutely nothing. And then there is space on top, space on the bottom, and space on the side. The composition, it's nicely studied. So please consider that, because it happens every week and we jump into things, and then we spend 2 hours and things compositionally are weird. So this assignment, more than any other assignment, arrange with care. Another example, look at the visual space. Again, no surface, no distinction between surface and wall. Love that. Makes this so contemporary, so incredibly trendy. This was like 1920s. This was painted in the 1930s, 1920s. So, I mean, talk about standing the test of time. Yeah, whatever the expression is, I forgot. This one also, no distinction. Well, there's barely a distinction between surface and background, but important space around it. In all these images, there's been a focus on the light being from the front, which is also very strange because it looks like there's a spotlight and it doesn't feel like it's an outdoor lighting. So look for also where the cast shadows are and see if you can orient your easel in a way that make sure that it doesn't interfere or it doesn't come from behind, or it creates some sort of like setup where the light becomes a protagonist. This is kind of like super serene, super quiet, super dry, light on the front. We know that this is not a natural light. The artist doesn't give us any room to imagine or think about a window and it's sunset and or there's a candlelight or I'm on a porch. None. So he purposely, brilliantly, incredibly well thought, removes everything that feels it could give our subconscious, or it could trigger our subconscious to try to contextualize. And I say subconscious because when we see an image, there are things that we don't rationalize and that they happen. So I'm going to stop this right now and I'm going to go back here. I thought this was very important because it kills me when we go to the, this is kind of like mean. It kills me when we go to the Q&A, to the critique, the critique time. And you guys have spent 2 hours of precious time that's sacred, that you allocated, and then I see compositionally that there are things that are very hard to resolve. They involve you compromising. So if this session, it's occupied entirely by just sketching, I would be so happy because I project that compositionally something's gonna happen. So I have the 2 images. I decided to do landscape. Boy, that was like a really challenging introduction. Okay, so it's not a photograph. It's more difficult, more challenging, but I'm gonna grow more with this. So I make myself also aware that I don't want to rely on photographs too much, because if I don't think this way, I will just take pictures all the time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up the top and I'm gonna set up the bottom. I'm gonna make them smaller because I want to make sure. So this is my thought process. I have a big paper and not very much time, and so I can proportionally arrange things here so they are nicely balanced. But since this has a specific purpose, why not make things a little bit smaller so I make my life a little bit easier, and then I can accomplish more because I don't know when I'm going to be able to sit here with the same light conditions. So I'm gonna make it a little smaller. So enough space on top and enough space at the bottom. I'm not gonna do the background and I'm not gonna do the table. Everything will be the same thing. And now that I have this, I'm gonna do the two objects. How? Axis line here, axis line here. So this is my stick figure potato shape stage. How far it's gonna go, how low it's gonna go, I'm not gonna go beyond it. And then, yeah, the space around it, I'm not worried about because it's only two objects. I can decide how far apart, I don't have to follow what I see, but yeah, I don't want the objects to touch. You'll see it in the images as well. There's no object in front of another object that gives us the illusion of perspective. Out, I mean, in his work process, completely out. This movement was very specific in trying to create a sense of eeriness. I didn't talk about this in the video, but it's almost like Gothic. There's something Gothic-like in these images, not just because they're sort of like dolls or figures, but in the sense of how they are staged. I think it's brilliant. So first things first, I compare alignments. So this is going to be the height. So that's it. That's my figure standing up. And then the other one, how tall is it? So I'm going to check the other one in comparison of this one. So it's going to be, I think a quarter. So it's just going to be this tall. All right. So I got my two objects, the figure and the plant, the succulent. And I got where they are, how big they are, how separated they are, and how proportionate they are in between them. And then, so I'm going to start with, and I already know that I have to separate them a little bit. Because I'm going to do the pot first. Why? Because it's cylindric. And anything cylindric, it's a little bit easier to compose. So the pot's going to be first. I'll do my potato shape right here. So going really fast. I have the axis line that's going to help me do the left and the right. And then I'm actually going to remove one leaf because I don't want the leaf to show perspective. I'm going to do the trunk of the succulent, and I'm going to make the leaves just stick out so they don't touch the pot or they don't hide beneath the pot. I'm making a lot of decisions in that sense right now. So I want to make sure that this is clear, clean, simplified, no distractions. And here I go with I chose a succulent just because I didn't want texture. I wanted to keep things clean, although on the images, sometimes there's texture on the pattern of the clothes of the dolls and stuff like that. But everything is carefully chosen in the images. So it is stripped from distractions. So, and that's my analysis. By all means, I am sharing your thought process, but my thought process is not meant to overrule any of your decisions. In fact, if anything, it should help you strengthen the reasons why you chose your composition. So don't see me saying all this nonsense, validating or invalidating what you're doing. I'm just vocalizing my thought process. So hopefully, not only it's going to help you strengthen your position, but hopefully it's going to also make it much more enjoyable for you guys to appreciate the painting in a different way from a painter's perspective. I'm being very pretentious right now, but yeah. So we could stay at the surface, but I have followed this artist for a while, and by following, meaning like, you know, follow the hashtag, so whatever that is. So once in a while, an image pops from these artists, and over time, I learned to try to go deeper in understanding the reasons why I like that so much. So this is it. I went in less than 90 seconds from one stick figure to something, and I think that's good. Well, what was important here is that the axis line dictated or helped me, because dictated is really not a very nice word, um, helped me find out how big this was going to be. Because otherwise, if I wasn't going to follow that guideline, I would do the object the exact same size that my eyes is seeing it right now, disregarding entirely the paper. And I could repeat that 1,000 times, and at the end of the session, you will realize that you did it. Wow, I'm being spicy today. Jen, you can stop me. I don't know what I took this morning. All right, I'm just gonna do the base right up here. So right now that I have the pot, I can start making alignments. I don't accumulate elements in an isolating way. I always try to find relationships. And since I have this, I just find out with, well, the border is here. Let me see the platform. It's right here. Now, the middle of the figure, it's probably following right here. So I'm just going to do it. And then I have these two areas. I'm going to do the hips right now and see if I can do the legs with a simple potato shape. I love that on the doll that I have, or the image, one leg, it's not stepping on the platform. So yeah, that's what. All right, and then I'm just going to do the torso and then the head. And I need to reduce the size because I'm already realizing that I'm not giving enough space to the torso. When we do figures, we have the tendency of making the faces too big because we think that gives identity to the figure. So we go for the face. And then when the face is big, what happens next is that we try to make the torso have somewhat proportionate measures with the head. And that's fine and dandy. And then from the hips down, then we're freak out because we made the head so big and we made the torso so big that then we don't have space for the legs. And then the legs are like this big compared to the rest of the image. So that's why, for me, I try not to rely on the head size first. If you notice what I did, I tried to get some sort of like idea where the middle of the figure is. Why? Because I know that that's going to be an issue. If I start with the head, I'm not going to have enough space. And then I'm going to have to do it again. And then most likely what happens is that we repeat the same lines and then we do it again, but then we get the same results. And then we're like, well, how is it possible? I mean, what's wrong with me? I've done it and I've done it a second time and it's not happening. And then, yeah. And then we throw this into the ocean. I know, Dina, you're there, so you know what I'm talking about. There's no throwing anything. Or we're despairing. This was not my best painting. You know, I wasn't in the mood. I don't know, it was a rough day. So you can avoid all that by trying a different approach. So start with the middle of the figure instead. I think that sounds, yeah, it's not too bad. It sounds like a little bit better. So my objects in the painting are much smaller than the objects in front of me. And that was a difficult translation because anything that's a different size, it's going to become really difficult for our brain. It's not used to multitask. Unfortunately. So, but yeah, that's fine because what's important is, are the images in a place that I wanted them to be? Yes, I didn't go, I set up the parameters, the what I call the scaffolding. So I'm happy about this control. And this was my intention. I wanted this to follow these guidelines, and I usually like to make them bigger. I like to bring the background. I like to contextualize them in a space. I like the light to be a protagonist in the whole scene, but this is a different it's a different story. All right, so I think I'm good with that. So time-wise, all right, yeah, it's not too bad. With the rambling, the repeat of the intro, the sharing of the screens, and all that, I thought I was going to delay this a lot, but it didn't. So that's good. I'm going to go to shading right now, darker to lighter, and I shade, and at the same time, yeah. So let me just check, because I want to triple check the actual name. I forgot. I know that it was the new objectivity, and then the other art movement was magical realism. Yeah, I said it right. Magical realism. Never mind. Sorry, guys. Yeah. So I was reading about it to find out more, and I realized that I tried to find a reason why they did this. So these were very, very disturbing times and chaotic times. And I think I didn't make the connection on the inspirational video, but I'm making it right now. I just felt like, this could be a good rabbit hole to kind of like jump into and find a reason why we're doing this right now. So Rudolf Vaca was very involved politically. He was a pacifist. He was against violence, against war, and stuff like that. And so he went through a lot through his life because of his beliefs, and he was chased after, harassed, and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like there's a thread between the artistic work that was produced at the time within this subgenre of the new objectivity, the magical realism. And for me, it's the quietness. So these paintings for me, they are the result of someone living a completely chaotic life, but then finding refuge in this silence, in the quietness, in the stillness. So if we see the paintings, without the social context, we think, oh well, these are pretty, and someone who had it all figured out, and all that stuff. But in fact, it wasn't the case. So I'm taking that premise, the fact that this stillness, that quietness, I'm imagining in my mind that served as a refuge for the artist to create, and I am co-opting it to the current times. So this is the conceptual connection between what we're living right now and what this represents. It's not just to create something that's scary looking, or it represents loneliness or fragility, vulnerability, but it's creating from a place of stillness as a means to quiet our surroundings. I know if your ear is not listening to this, then good for you, because it's probably not that important. But yeah, that's why we chose the subject matter this time. It's not something around us. It's not a sink or a ceiling or anything like that. But I just feel that this, for me, it's an opportunity to, and I'm already feeling it. I'm already feeling it, to quiet down everything, cancel the noise. Yeah. I love the whole idea of the silent narrative, or the quiet narratives, or the mysterious narratives behind it. There was another article that mentioned the differences between magical realism and surrealism, because there's not that much, at first, I don't see that much different. They're both were movements that happened between the world wars, and they had a purpose. They had a purpose to escape, to get away, not only to protest, but to not conform with the rules of engagement, social engagement, dialogue. There were movements, art movements, that they had a purpose. I mean, now we see them and we laugh and we find them funny and clever and everything. But I feel like more than ever, they make so much more sense to me. This was the only choice for creative people at the time, to get away from everything, and that way, breaking the rules. I'm not gonna argue if your belief is right and mine is better than yours. Completely break the rules, and I'm making my own reality. So I love that. I love that, and I feel like creating during this time that there's so much noise, so much confusion. The election is approaching. We're all in a heightened sense of anxiety for our futures, for our families' futures. And so that's why we're doing this. I'm going to give myself a few more minutes. I just want the figure to have a little bit more definition, not too much, not too much. I mean, these artists were really emphatic about trying to be as realistic as possible, as true as possible to the object. There were different subgenres of the new objectivity. So this one in particular, the one that Rudolf Vaca adopted or used, was more anchored in likeness. So realism was a big deal. That's something that I'm not going to bring up in my painting. I just want, I just want to, it's not too bad. I like the legs stepping off the platform. And I don't have any direct light, so there's nothing, there's no cast shadow. All right, so I have to be careful at this stage because I'm feeling it. It's bubbling up. I feel like now I want to continue with the charcoal because I feel comfortable. And so because I'm feeling it, I know it's time to stop, and I'm going to stop. Yeah, because otherwise I'm just going to get carried away, and I would want to struggle making things like much more realistic because in my mind, this is what it's all about. And that's when you need to stop. There's a lot of restraint that happens when you go stage by stage, because otherwise, you lose yourself within that engaged mood. All right, so, whoops, I need some liquids. So I'm just gonna pretend that you guys are either still sketching or that basically one option, still sketching. And I'm gonna keep talking, and as I squeeze paint on my palette, because I didn't have time. I didn't have time. So talking about squeezing paint on the palette, I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to see the recap notes that Jen posted on the Google Doc, but my gosh, Jen, those were so good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, babe. Yeah, no, just lots of pictures of the screen.
No, it's just amazing. So if you haven't watched them, so Jen named every paint. So she actually typed the name of the paint, circled, and pointed at things that were happening. It's so good. It's so good. So I so appreciate it because otherwise you just see uh, a palette with color and then you cannot connect the dots. But yeah, it was amazing, Jen. So thanks so much.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, those are in the Google Docs that went with um, what was that?
I forgot to, Jen.
Oh no! It wasn't dearest ones. What was the what did we just, oh, the sink. The sink.
I don't know what I had for breakfast, so don't ask me.
So they're a continuation of the note.
Wait, there was a faucet. The
Yeah,
sink.
the sink, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sink of the sink. I remember the emoji on the email. That's how bad.
Yeah, well, shoot. Whatever it takes. Oh, that's a painting.
Okay, so yeah, so we created another dog, and yeah, but anyhow, so I'm ready to wash, and then because this is going to be very light, I'm going to clean up this accessory lines because I don't know how much time I'm going to have to add layers and layers on the background. So it may be completely sheer. So I want to make sure that that doesn't become a task later that I have to take care of. Yeah, kind of cleaning it up a little bit. I think that's good. Yeah. Yeah, got it. Perfect. Yeah, interesting. Already like this, it's weird and stripped with everything. And I purposely, because also align them with the same height because I didn't want to have absolutely anything that could trigger the subconscious to think, oh well, this is like in the front and this is in the back, so there's some space. Um, so none of that. So I'm just gonna block. So first notes, I'm using the solvent with neutrals first. I'm going darker to lighter, and I try to analyze what's the darkest here and what's the lightest. So the idea of the staining is to seal the charcoal, to um, prime the paper, and yeah, so I don't have to be precise or anything like that. So I'm just going to block out for now. I work fast. The idea is not to be careful or keep whatever we have, make sure that we don't remove everything, none of that. So the idea is it's very technical, just to block out the charcoal and prime the paper. So darker to lighter works. Also, I need to control myself with the titles because in deciding a title, I think titles are important. And so in deciding the title for this assignment, I played with opposites. And it's funny, and some of you have brought it up, it's funny how the concept of still life has such opposite approaches linguistically from English to French. In French, nature morte, nature morte means dead nature. But in English, it's like a still life. So it almost feels like they don't want to go to that dramatic stage of saying that something is dead. They mean the same thing, but each language approaches it differently. This brings me to the idea of that I read a while ago. I don't know who wrote it and where I read it, but it was very interesting that language defines culture. Language defines culture. So depending on where you're born or brought up rather, and what your mother language is, it determines already the mechanisms to understand reality. It's fascinating because you think, no, I mean I'm translating, and it doesn't mean anything, but it does. And an example of that is how two languages define the same thing. One goes to the dead stuff, and the other one is like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's let's not get there. I'm just gonna call it life that is not moving. Um, and then in French also, tableau vivant is life bigger. So yeah, anyhow, so I just wanted to kind of like pump up, turn up the drama and go to the French language to really to really you know, make it more dramatic and appealing and interesting, and conceptually this sort of like feels is the right thing as well. Two elements, two definitions. Okay, so this is, I'm going one step at a time, and I'm gonna bring some sap green. How about that? I'm not starting with neutrals on that area. I'll bring sap green, and I will just mix it with, I'll mix it with some ecru. Yeah, that's perfect. Gorgeous. Whoa, wow, that's like way too pigmented. So I'm adding some gray. I think that's better. Gray is a good color to tone down, desaturate. All right, so that's good. That's good. That's good. And I'm not thinking about what this looks like or anything like that. That's not important. I'm doing one thing at a time. So I'm doing, what is that I'm doing right now? I'm staining, and yeah, so I'm just staining. And then it's just so funny. It looks like the figure is standing on a pile of poop. I love it. I'm going to use white, and I'm actually gonna bring some gray, because I feel I wanna, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I want to create some sort of like a light mid-tone around the figures, because otherwise they feel very disconnected, and there's a certain level of integration between the images and the space around them. So just brought gray. I don't mind the oil getting picked up or anything like that. I'll be able to clean those things out later. Yeah, be untidy and chaotic. Don't worry about the paint dripping or picking up or bleeding and not being crisp enough or anything like that. I tried to be a little bit rebellious on that stage. It's not important. The edges, you know, it's not important. And why I feel this way, because I know that the thinness of the paint will allow me to build on it safely. So I'm not adding a lot of oil right now, because I just want to make sure the paper is sealed, and this allows me not to commit to shapes at this stage. So I can anticipate right now that I'm going to use the small brush a lot, because the area is small. So I'm going to do a lot of detail work here, which I'm really excited about. There we go. Yeah, a little bit integrated. Also, I want to remove the glare of the painting surface. It's just too much. I need it to be washed, and a little bit of green here. That's okay. Just can change the cast later. This is not a size that I would recommend because it's too big for what we're doing, unless you want to spend time. And now, actually, I'm happy that I'm doing this size, because the studio time sessions that we do on Wednesdays, I realized that I can really elevate the work in those 2 extra hours. So I feel like, you know, the size of the paper now, it's not bad. Yeah. And I'm using this size just because the camera, it's a little bit, it's hard to put the camera really close because otherwise I don't have space for myself. And that's what I got. I'm using a phone camera, not a fancy camera that zooms in, which is maybe something we're gonna get, I don't know, soon, to make sure that this getting more pro. Um, Time-wise, okay. Ideally, I would have loved to be a little bit more ahead of where I am, but it's not too bad either because I did the sketch and the wash in 45 minutes. So I think the next 15 minutes, what I'm going to try to do is move on to the first notes. Yay, that's nice. Yeah, I'm happy about this. And yeah, I'm happy about this. So paper is wet, charcoal is sealed. That's the function of the main function of the staining process. Darker to lighter, using neutrals only, but I added a little bit of the sap green mixed with neutrals with ecru and gray, so I didn't want it to make to be too bright. And yeah, I think that's it. Very thin consistency. Why? I want the painting surface to do two things. Number one, absorb it, but if it's not absorbed, at least vaporize. So the really thin layer of oil feels very firm and set on the paper really quickly. I don't have to wait. So I'm gonna use the big brush later because I'm gonna work on the background, especially I'm gonna bring more white and then I'm just gonna play with some shadows, the cast shadows. I'm gonna make everything continuous here. I'm not gonna divide anything because number one, I wanna make it as simple as possible for me in the time that I have. And then number two, I also wanna clean it up and make sure that this has projects a sense of stillness as much as possible. Silence, stillness. Yeah, that's something about the still lifes that we love so much. Why? We think it's just the colors and stuff like that, but maybe it's just the fact that they're still. That's why we love them so much. We didn't think about it, but I think that's could be a good thing to investigate. All right, so I'm just gonna move to second notes. I still have some liquids, I can do that. So darker to lighter, I'm sorry, first notes. So sketch first, which has different stages. Potato shape stage, that's something from our own, definition. Structural lines, details, and shading. And then staining, just a wash, very thin consistency, anchored on neutrals, and not worried about edges. And now I'm going to go to the first notes, which is application of color base on top of the wash that will feel very mosaic-like. No transitions, an approximate shade. And on this stage, I will bring back the drawing component because there are things that I see right now that I want to change. So this is almost like a new opportunity to sketch the painting, but using a wet medium. So I'm using a medium brush and I'm just gonna go ahead with neutrals. This was like a raw umber, and I'm mixing it with a medium. So no more solvent for this because otherwise it's gonna be doing what it's doing right now, dripping. So mixing it with a medium and then blocking it out. I'm just interested in getting the shape, reining in the shape. So there's a very specific function for first notes, and that is to set the foundation, the color foundation. The wash is not so much a foundation as it is a priming stage. This is when we can just set up the base of things and tidy up a little bit. My brush stroke right now, it's not as quick. Observe, observe, observe. Spend more time looking than painting. It's not 50-50. There's a lot of things that get revealed when we actually look and pause, and then we go back to our painting. The painting is just a consequence of the observational process. It's not the main thing. So that is very important. It's very important, because if we grasp that idea, we won't be so worried about what happens on our painting, which is not important. We would be more concerned about what is that our eye is seeing. Yeah, so a little bit darker, and then I'm just going to go to the soil of the pot, and I already feel I need to change this pot. The opening, the upper section of the pot, it's too round. I don't see it this way. It's more oval on the image. It's too narrow. It's much wider on the object. So this pot needs to be totally rebuilt. Totally rebuilt. So I'm lowering this line at the bottom so it tilts the pot a little bit more rather than looking more from a bird's eye view. But yeah. So yeah, this artist, he lived in Vienna, and I forgot, Jen, maybe you can help us. I checked things on the Wikipedia page, but I forgot the reason why he was imprisoned by, when I just replayed the video, the inspirational video, and he said the Russians apprehended him. And I was like, the Russians, like what, who? So can you find out exactly why he was imprisoned in Siberia?
Sure. Yes.
Thanks. He would, I believe, I'm not sure, and maybe you can triple check that, because sometimes, you know, I should be more careful. I believe he was not Jewish, although he was anti-Nazi regime. Yeah, but I believe he wasn't Jewish. I didn't read anything about it, but yeah, it didn't sound like he was, because he was, otherwise he would have probably had a different fate. Sorry to bring that up. But yeah. All right, so I think the pot is a little bit darker, so I'm just going to move from the darkest part to the less dark. There's so much that I need to do to redraw things, actually. So I'm using burnt sienna, but it's way too bright. Way too bright. I'm going to bring a little bit of gray, not too much. Oh yeah. If you bring too much gray, then it becomes way too chalky and it doesn't work. But if you bring a little bit of gray, the pigmentation gets diluted and it's not as bright. Maybe some ecru. And then I'll just resketch the pot. This is what I'm doing right now. My first notes on this, because it's so tiny and I lost so much definition, they're mostly dedicated to rebuild the drawing structure of this area. I just wanted to make a little bit more sense. One thing that I read that I wish there was material about, he left a lot of diaries and letters behind. Will you believe that there's not a publication right now that has gathered all that material? Um, I would have, I would have loved, I would have loved to get my hands on that and read it, because um, sometimes reading the personal writings of the artists also helps understanding the way they paint, or why they painted what they did. This is a little bit wider, so I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cut the pot a little bit. Because right now, it was too narrow, it wasn't wide enough, and I can bring a little bit of the white and cut it from the bottom.
Leo, it seems like he was a prisoner of war.
A prisoner of war, yeah.
Yeah, so that he was, it says that he was drafted into the Tyrolean, I don't know, Imperial Rifles Regiment, and 1 year later captured in Poland by the Russians and imprisoned in Siberia for nearly 5 years.
So he was in the military. He was in the military.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jen.
Sure.
Yeah, so I would have loved to, I would have loved to get my hands on that, because, to find out what he wrote about, if obviously, I mean, heart attack situation, he probably carried a lot of like PTSD after that experience, and others, I would have loved to find out more about his friends, or if he did something, I don't know. Seems very interesting to me. And what makes a person who goes through a certain traumatic experience, what makes them paint something? To me, that is fascinating and interesting. And also the way they paint it. All right, so yeah, I just kind of like rebuild the pot a little bit, and this is looking a little bit more developed. So what I'm looking at in regards to the technical aspect, I need to ground myself and be realistic about what I'm doing and what it means and how far I need to move forward. But I'm doing first notes. So as I said, it's an opportunity to readjust the drawing and also lay the foundation of the color. So once I know what this is about, I can set realistic expectations. And then as I do it, if I have realistic expectations, I don't feel like something wrong's happening, or that I'm not accomplishing something that I should accomplish. So first notes, mosaic-like, the idea is to block out areas. Don't worry about transitions or details or anything like that. And also use the opportunity to shift things around. When we do second notes, then we can start concentrated on the location of each of the color fields and develop variations of color and value. But we're not there yet. So why worry about what this looks like when I'm just setting up the foundation of things. All right, in regards to the figure, I'm just going to, I'm gonna bring ecru for now. Maybe ecru with a tad, oh yeah, ecru with a tad of raw umber. And then see if I can just bring back that element. As an artist as well, one of the things that I felt I was connecting with the painting, and I'm pretty sure that that was the case, because it happened to me and it happens to a lot of artists. So um, sometimes there's simply no opportunity to find a live model. It's a luxury for yourself, you know, to get a figure and then to invite the figure and then just paint it. Um, this is a myth. This idea that painting involves, you know, a live figure. Um, the reality is that for the majority of the artists, that's not a possibility. It's a luxury. Um, we think this way because, unfortunately, I mean, the way painting was treated in the ancient times or Renaissance, which is when all the things about painting kind of like got categorized. All the painters of the time were really, the majority were affluent, you know, having a model, you know, it was part of the deal. They were rich or came from rich, wealthy families. And it was a given, you know, you could do that, you know, especially it was a reputable profession. But my guess is that he used dolls as an alternative to a human figure. And this happens a lot. In the absence of a human figure, you find a substitute. And if you want to paint from life, then you bring a doll or a figurine, sculpture, and you do it. So I would have loved to find out how much of a necessity this was and how much that necessity became a conceptual anchor of these paintings. Yeah. Anyhow, one of my friends in Spain, he's a photographer, and when we were growing up, he loved to take pictures, and because he didn't have models, he had a collection of Barbie dolls, and he did a portfolio, or his portfolios were basically or essentially using the Barbie dolls as figures. So this reminds me, and now he has models and stuff like that, but it reminds me that sometimes out of necessity, this may happen. I'm just bringing some highs and lows. And this is not, it's not the same, and I'm going on a tangent right here. It's not the same as Egon Schiele. Egon Schiele, which was also from Austria, he did have models, and he used people in the army as models, and other people in his life from other places. But that's an interesting, and it probably was Egon Schiele a contemporary of Rudolf Jen in that sense? Egon Schiele.
Okay, let me look it up.
Yeah, and I wonder, did they know each other? Maybe they were frenemies. All right, so we're doing good. 1 hour, and we're doing like first notes already. Yes, I'm happy that I chose this like a smaller size, so I can actually manipulate, make changes. This will know for sure that this stage will look nothing like the stage at the end of the session. And if it does, it means we need to change something, because otherwise it means that we're basing our decisions on retracing. And that's not how it works. And also, Jen, if you can find out if I know Egon Schiele wasn't Jewish. If Rudolf Vaca was Jewish, just I mean,
Okay.
because I mean I'm saying this not for any reason, but because I want to find out if that was an added stressor, knowing that he lived in Austria and Germany um, before um, crap went down. It was before the ugly stuff happened. But I wonder if that was part of his experience, and I can only imagine how that influenced his body of work in a different way. All right, so and then this is a little bit lighter. So I'm going to do this gray. Yeah, so blocking out and trying not to do too much. Try not to do too much. It's not important here to start painting eyeballs and eyelashes. Um, we'll have time for that, and we're good with time right now. So um, again, first notes, the more we understand what this stage is about, the better we'll be able to set comfortable expectations. So then we don't feel we have to reach for the panic button at this stage. So it's all about understanding where we are and what we want the paint to do. Yeah, observation. So I'm already, I love that the sinuous elements of the doll. So I know that I'm gonna have to do some trimming from the outside, from the negative space. And then I'm gonna do some first notes. I did first notes on the pot, on the base, on the figure, and I'm gonna do some on the, I'm gonna do some on the succulent. So block out, and work on the edges. Work meaning like rework, reposition if you need to. If you feel the edges don't need to be repositioned, then you're not on the next level. Whoa, that was kind of like too strong. The edges always feel like need to be moved. They're in constant movement. It's natural. It's the way it should be. Why? Because the more we observe, the more relationships we find between different things.
Okay, so what I found was he was not Jewish, but openly anti-Nazi. So much so that he was arrested by the Gestapo and eventually died.
Wow.
So he spoke out constantly about fascism and against Germany, and was eventually arrested and then passed away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm finding a lot of amazing articles, you guys, that I'm including in the notes if you guys are interested.
Yes.
About Rudolf Walker, and then of course about, you know, everyone around him, Max Beckman, and
Yeah.
you know, everything else. I'm still looking for the Egon.
Yeah, Sheila. Oh, also, we did it like last time. Can you find out if there were who were the women of either the magical realism or the new objectivism, the female
Yes.
painters?
So I included a list, and I remember just off the top of my head, one of them was Frida Kahlo.
Frida Kahlo.
Does that sound weird?
Yeah, no. She was. Yeah.
And then I'm finding like Paula. How do you say her
Alderson
name?
Becker? No.
Yes,
Okay.
but I'm finding her within these guys. I'm not sure if she's magic, if she's a
Okay.
part of the magical realist, but she seems to be associated with these dudes. So I will find more of the.
Okay, it makes sense because you know, especially the new objectivism, new objectivity, they were pretty much focused on the mundane. And I know that Paula Matherson-Becker, she did a lot of still lives of you know, that amazing painting of the oatmeal that gives me chills. It's so incredible. There's another one. I think it was like the bread. So I want, yeah. So it would make sense that she would be related to this group because, yeah, yeah. I really enjoy you guys not just doing this technical stuff, but for me personally, I really enjoy finding these genres of figurativism that I wasn't aware of because. Not everything is figurative or everything's figurative, but not, it's not as simple. So to find out these movements, it's really like the kitchen sink painters and you know, magical realism um, and then naturalism, realism. So it's nice to see how figuration comes through with different intentions and objectives and styles. I don't know, it's something that I never experienced going to art school because no one puts the dots together. But being a figurative painter, it's nice to see that there's such a huge range of approaches and intentions and conceptual reasonings behind and styles. Um, yeah, I love it. I love it. I feel like it validates what we do so much. Um, it's important that we know this also, if you ask me. It's only going to help us decide what kind of path we want to move towards or through. Um, Learning about this helps me almost build more vocabulary to find out what I want to paint and why am I choosing this subject matter. Um, so important. Sorry, I'm not talking about the technical aspects of this, but I know you guys will appreciate it. Okay, so I'm finding myself already doing second notes, and I think I need to stop. But do I need to stop? Because I need to do this leaf right here. It's not really fully done. And in that sense, I'm gonna bring you guys to a couple of books that I highly recommend. And well, obviously, this one right here, it's the book of the summer, An American Odyssey, and Romar Bearden. If you haven't, I think you should, just because in that sense of realism, he ended up abandoning abstraction. He first didn't want to be considered a Black artist. He just wanted to be considered an artist, but then he inevitably thought that why not embrace that identity, and then used realism through the collages to make his mark. And so it's a different approach to realism and an interesting journey. An interesting journey. There was a lot of peer pressure on those years in New York to do abstraction. Oh, what am I doing? You guys, you probably are gonna call someone right now. Jen, you probably will. I was looking at the screen
Yeah.
to see the pot and then at my painting. I'm losing it. Never mind. Yeah, so it's hard to talk and think and paint at the same time. All right, so we're ready for second notes. That's it. I'm done. I did the leaf, and I'm somewhat okay with this stage. And now I'm gonna dedicate the next 45 minutes to see how much I can accomplish with second notes. So I'm gonna try to work as fast as possible. This is almost like a sprint, a long sprint. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to work by location right now, by location. This is different than what I did before with the first notes. I'm going to start with the location that I feel least comfortable. I was going to point at this right now because I feel like now it's starting to form up and then I feel really happy about it. But no, I'm going to go to the base because it's giving me so much trouble. And what I'll do is by location, I'll try to create highs and lows and different color temperatures within that location. So that's what second notes is. Second notes is once we get that blocked out area with the first notes, then we can go back in there and then create variations, transitions, blending, whatever you want to call it. But yes, and within that area, I will do a couple of things. I will try to work darker to lighter within the area. And the second thing, I will try to also make sure that I dedicate the same amount of time to positive space and negative space. So those two things, variations of values and temperature and negative space, will help me push this forward a lot with very little. Small brush still. And I feel it's the first thing that I need to do because I'm not happy about it because it's so dark. It's to shape this up. I need to bring that curvature much more pronounced. It's way too amorphous, way too amorphous. Sorry, I'm just on the screen. So I'm shading it. I'm not worried about my pulse. I embrace the trembling. I mean, for me, unlike these images, I feel the essence of the artist is important. So just titanium white right now. And then I'm going to use the raw umber to expand from the inside. So just working on shape.
Leo, is this considered second notes or is this still first notes?
Second notes. I'm working
Okay,
second
great.
notes. All right, it's a small area, so that's good. And then what I'll do, since I have so many darks, I've been using this color and I actually really, really love it. If I can find it, Van Dyke Brown. I'm in love with this color. It looks like black, but it's not. It's a really warm black. It's almost like raw umber, but much darker. And you know how much I love raw umber. So having this a notch darker, it's so good. So what I'll do is a combination of darkening some of the areas that I see first. And I work in very pixelated way. So I'm not blending yet. So I'm working in a very pixelated way, just kind of like putting almost like pointillistic way. And then I'll just bring I'm adding all the darks right there that I see, all the darks that I see. So again, I'm working on second notes and I'm working darker to lighter. And what I'm going to do is try to create variations of what I have. Variations of what I have. I'm not adding any color. I'm not, painting with colors or anything like that. I'm adding darker, lighter, warmer, or cooler. There is mixing going on with my paint, For example, I'm going to bring some of the light blue because there's a reflection here. I'm going to add it. And maybe the dustiness underneath the crack. There's also light coming from behind. That's gorgeous. So we said this before. The reason why on our palette it's very unusual. You're not going to see this anywhere. I'm not saying this because we're the best. Maybe we're the worst. But I refuse to get rid of those colors. I have not seen all the palettes out there, but I have never seen anyone using these two colors, the radiant red and the radiant blue. It's the light pink and the light blue. Why do we have these colors all the time? For me, these colors are so good to create temperatures of light. So for example, now there's the light bouncing from the table to the base and it reads cold. So I bring the light blue. But the one behind it, it's from the skylight and I have a yellow book. It reads warm. So I bring a tad of the pink. So these two colors are for me the best to create variations of light reflections, light glows. So that's why we have them. That's the reason why we have them. And unless someone comes in and says, you guys are doing this wrong, we will continue to use them because they are so good. They are so good for that. They're not white, so I don't have to worry about the chalkiness. So they work really well, in our opinion. The color that we use the least, of all the colors that we use, these are not the least, the colors that we use the least. The colors that we use the least, or the single color that we use the least, is yellow ochre. I think. I don't know. I think yellow ochre. We use it, but and also burnt sienna. Burnt sienna, it's very red. We use it, but yeah, not a lot. But not these two. We use these two way more than yellow ochre or burnt sienna. Way more. We need to register this color palette, Jen, so no one can use it. Or if they use it, they need to give us credit.
I love it. Will be those famous palettes that we did.
All right, so I'm just bringing some whites right now. So this is, oh, it's gorgeous. Sorry, I rarely talk like that about my work because it's so pretentious, but I do in an intimate setup. I'm a different person when I'm painting on my own. I'm also very animate, but I give myself a lot. This is confessional. Stop the show. August 7th, I give myself so many compliments when I paint on my own. So many compliments. What do you know? That's not the same Julio that's out there. And I have fun with it. It's like a solo act. I have fun with it. I love enjoying the process. When I hit like what I call a success, I really thrive. I love when that happens. I love painting and I love what I do, and I vocalize it, I verbalize it. So yeah. I think that happens to all of us. I hope it happens to all of us, you know, because otherwise we'd be miserable. All right, so I was going to say before I said gorgeous, and then I went on a super weird tangent. I was going to say that this right now, it's all about time management. It's not about how much, how good one thing looks, and I'm not going to move until it looks good. It's about managing the time. Again, and this is in very strong terms, what happens on the painting is not important. It's what we decide that's important. So it's 12:22. I spend like 10 minutes. That's way too much for this area. I know where this is coming from because I feel comfortable, and then I want to do more, but I have a lot that I need to accomplish before my set time. I need to learn how to manage the time in that sense. So I'm gonna abandon this. It looks perfect for this stage. And I'm gonna go to the pot because I'm gonna go by location. I think it's very important to anchor the subjects. So in my philosophy of giving more importance to the background than the figure, I feel like giving importance to the grounding element could be the next stage. Okay. Sorry, I may just have to step out for a second, but I won't. I'm gonna wait until the hour to do that. All right, I need to squint my eyes, and I realize there's a lot of lightness right there. I need orange. And this is the real way I work. I start with a palette with neutrals, and then as I need a cast or I need a shade, I start adding. I change. I didn't used to work like that. This is how I used to work, which now I find ridiculous. I used to squeeze every single tube on my box, on my paint box. And we can talk about paint boxes. How about Jen, put it on the notes, or maybe remind me. But paint boxes could be a good topic for the colloquium session on Tuesday.
Sure.
But what they should have, what they look like, and the functions, they're very important. Paint boxes are very important. So I used to set up a palette and squeeze every single tube. I have no idea why I did that, and then it just made me happy. And then I would just use every single color. Yeah. And yeah, that wasn't working very well because I needed to find a reason. Without a reason, it wasn't just working. So I'm finding a challenge right now. There's an area that needs to be much lighter, and I cannot make it lighter. I'm putting white, but it doesn't seem to be lighter. Well, it's a little bit lighter. So let me see if I can just cheat. I think I'll be able to cheat. What if you are not able to cheat? So just get the rag and wipe it off. And then it's going to be dry. You can start anew. All right, so the edge of the pot needs to be lower on the background. So I'm just working on background stuff too. This needs to be shaved. I don't hesitate in really dramatically change the drawing. We have to be brave, my friends. I don't know if that was a movie or not. So yeah, when you see something and you're terrified of changing it, don't. Just kind of like go for it. I need to lighten up this area a lot more. Oh yeah, this color works. So this is what I'm doing again, an example of what second notes are. I'm sticking with one location and doing two things, working darker to lighter in that location, and then also working on the outside to make sure I make adjustments as I go forward or as I see them. So yeah. quieter brush strokes. This area, for example, it doesn't feel as the top is a little bit lighter. I trust the process. I'm not judging myself or my painting. I just try to get better at observing and making decisions. And I know the painting will follow. I know the painting will follow. Um, I got tired of feeling like I was sitting in the back of the bus. Oh my gosh, that's probably completely inappropriate. But yeah, so I am the driver of the bus right now. This is going to be an epic webinar. What does it mean? It means that I make the decisions and then the painting follows. The painting follows. I don't feel the other way around. Like I have to chase after what the painting should look like. It's exhausting and it's not enjoyable. I make the decisions based on my observation. The painting follows that. I know it sounds better than how do you really apply that? It's a mixture of trust and doing the work of thinking about what you see. So I see this, I squint my eyes, it's darker right here. It just makes sense. The soil, it's not just brown. There's texture on it, and there is a gradation from darker to lighter. It's shallower in this area, and then it feels like it's flushed on the other side. So these are the variations that I'm looking forward to when I do the second notes. I don't think about this when I do the first notes, not at all. And if I find myself doing that, it's exhausting. My brain feels like it's carrying a heavy weight because I have to do so many things in one specific time. So it was good for me, or it's good to separate responsibilities and expectations. First notes do one thing, second notes involve another dynamic. At some point, and I see this all the time, at some point, it's either going to break you, and that means you feel like you want to give up painting, or you'll have to change the approach. I'm saying that by experience, because I honestly believe that people give up painting and go on to other forms that they think they're more contemporary, or I feel like the real reason is that they hit a wall. They hit a wall with painting, and then that's it. They just move on to something else, another medium. And then all the excuses come. Painting is démodé, old school, a vestige of a colonial patriarchal era, blah, blah, blah. I heard quite a few. And I call them excuses, because a medium is a medium. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're gonna hit a wall in painting, you're gonna hit a wall in every medium you choose to express yourself with. It's not the medium, it's us. Okay, so I think I did some work here. I'm gonna bring some ecru and the lovely pink for the glow of light underneath the edge. On this painting right here, on this object, the point of contact is really interesting. So I'm gonna try to bring some Van Dyke brown. This is, for starters, this feels too flat. I always talk about how to create a cylindric sense on a sectioned cylinder. We need to sometimes exaggerate the roundness. So I made it way too flat, and I see it right now because if you look, which you don't have to, the bottom, I mean, the opening of the pot is round. The bottom is flat. There's no correlation. I can see it right now. So it just happened right now. So I didn't see it before. So I'm gonna bring that rusty color, and what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to lower that roundness. And it's funny because before I used white to trim it, but now I realize that it's not what I thought it was going to look like. So sometimes we make a decision and we think it's going to be final, and then something comes about, and then we realize that not only it wasn't final, but we're far from developing that. So that's why the edges are a constant moving target. They are a moving target. The more we observe, the more we're going to see, and the more relationships we're going to be able to recreate. So that makes already so much sense. Also, be aware when you feel like you're not looking at the subject enough. So what's happening here, I thought, you know, I need to make this rounder, and then I stopped looking at the subject. And when we start looking at the subject, we come up with our own decisions, and that may not be a good idea. Now I'm going to do the point of contact, the darker line. And I'm having a bit of trouble. I may just wait a little bit because I have white underneath already. So it's hard to create a point of contact with darker paint when white's underneath. So that's the biggest challenge with oil. It's not the wetness of the paint, but it's mostly how do we deal with darkening things when we have white pigment underneath. And yeah, so we can wipe things off and rebuild it. That's the easy way out. There's no reason why we should throw the painting in the ocean if that happens. There's never a reason to throw a painting in the ocean. All right, so I'm gonna take like a deep breath because that was a lot of work, and I'm very happy with the basis, and I feel I have now less than half an hour, so it's totally nuts. The sense of time when we create, it's, you know, I feel like we plugged in a different dimension, and where time, it's totally has different rules. But I have, I'm making my strategy or my draft for the rest of the time. I'm going to take 15 minutes for the figure and 15 minutes for the succulent. And I will not have enough time for neither of those, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't do it. I will do it. And then I know that this will be a work in progress, and I will definitely work more on it. So let's go for it. So I'm going to go with a figure first. And the same colors. I need to remember the colors that I used. There's a lot of, here we go. And I'm concentrating on darks. On the neck. Let's kind of like go on the face. Jen, I'm going to ask you something that's going to be super hard, but maybe you'll be able to do that.
Okay.
Any of the paintings that we put on the folder, on the image folder, will you be able to find out the painting size? Because now that I'm doing this, I realize that that could be really interesting to find out. It doesn't have to be all of them. What's the size of the actual original painting?
Of the paintings that you posted for this?
Yeah.
Sure.
Any of them?
Totally. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
I feel like scale right now, it's something that I'm really curious about. I want to find out. My guess is that they're small because, I don't know. He was well known. He was famous during his lifetime. He had great reputation. He was featured in the Venice Biennale, which we talked about, um, of 1934. I think it was 1934. So that means that to be featured in the Biennale, you had to be recognized by the government of the country, and they send you as representatives, the art representatives of the country. And so, yeah, so he was recognized. So this could go either way. Maybe they're large, because, or maybe they're still small. And then my theory of not having a model will not stand. So obviously, I mean, the fact that he was well known doesn't mean like he was wealthy. So maybe I can still use that theory. So I think that he worked in different jobs. To sustain himself. Yeah, so lighter to darker. I did a little bit. Yeah, it's building up a little. It's so important to start with darks. Why? Because the darks will help you anchor very important points on the object. You can always depart from those areas and feel safe. Um, Also, building darks, I feel like it's the best way to carve or mold things uh, to create the illusion of form. So rather than focusing on details, focus on value. Where are the darker shadows of something? Place those and magically your object will emerge. You can always do the details on top, but the value is more important. So that's what I'm doing. I couldn't find any sizes of those paintings, by the way. So if you can find any, Jen, it could be from other paintings that are kind of like still lifes.
Yeah, I think I can find at least one.
Okay, awesome. And I'm gonna give you another assignment. My brain is already working fast. So a while ago in one of the webinars, we talked about Egyptian art and how we talked about the funeral masks and how incredible those paintings were in their realism. So we're using an anthropomorphic figure right here that represents a human figure. And I feel like the Egyptian culture was very good at creating anthropomorphic figures. So can you find out if there are any Egyptian dolls and what they look like? Because I'd be curious to find out what kind of like a likeness the toys of that civilization had with the real thing, since they were so good at rendering faces and creating sculptures. I wonder what the toys look like.
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
I think now 15 minutes, I have 4 minutes. I'm laughing. 4 minutes. And we thought this was going to be a piece of cake. I thought, you know what, it's going to be small. Like, I'm going to finish this. No way. I'm going to try to bring the facial features in a very subtle way because I don't want them to pop. And I want, I mean, seriously, I wanted to bring more objects, not just two, because he's on his paintings. By the way, one of the things that I love about the works is not just the fact that there are some figures, but some of the paintings, and some are in the folder, they have like children's drawings in the background. I absolutely love that. Who in the 1920s would think that, you know, I'm going to paint something gorgeous and beautiful, but then I'm just going to put a childhood or a drawing of a child in the background. So interesting. We think that we invented everything, and oh man. Okay, I just totally screwed this, if I can say that word, because I did the eyes way too high. It's a common habit. We forget that there's a hairline and we put the eyes really higher, closer to the top of the head. They're much lower and much smaller. Oh yeah, that's much better. Yes. Way too dark, but that's okay. That's okay. I can just change that later. Yeah. Yeah, that's totally creepy. I love it. Really interesting. Really interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. I would mail these to an expert in Freudian psychoanalysis. And I would get a report that will be uh, volumes, not just pages, because this is now really interesting. You know, the broken doll and no arms, no feet, and then that face not supported. Um, this is what I love about this assignment, the fact that this painting could be a portal to learning more about ourselves and, you know, yeah. So 15 more minutes, and I'm just going to spend the 15 more minutes dedicated to the leaves of the succulent. There's something really luscious and organic, sensuous almost, whole, formed. So yeah, I just love that. I'm gonna bring one of the colors that we added recently, quinacridone violet. This is another addition. In addition to the Van Dyke brown, zinc white, the quinacridone violet was another good addition. Why? Because the edges of the leaves of the succulent, they are red. They have like a reddish note. So I am going to bring that color because it's going to work beautifully. How about also, and I'm anticipating this, but there are certain shades in the leaves that feel similar to the tone of the skin on the succulent. So I need to make sure that this color doesn't take over. So I'm going to bring some ecru to tone it down. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, that's good. And if I need to darken it, I'm gonna darken it with Van Dyke Brown. Whoa, that's way too dark. Way too dark, so just gonna tap on it and then bring this color. And I'm gonna re-sketch that because the leaf feels, I need to bring red. I'm afraid, but I think I need to bring red actually. All right, there's some sap green that's lighter around. Let me see. I think I don't want to spend too much time because I have very little. So I need to find out. Oh, and by the way, based on the um, demonstration we did on Tuesday, I am using yellow to make greens more than using white. If there was one take about that demonstration was that to make greens lighter, if we rely on white, it's just gonna bleach them, create a weird color. And certainly enough, this is what happened when I tried to make that green lighter. Rely on yellow for that. Especially because anything that's alive, but anything botanical, it's going to be much harder to paint with oil, with the pigments that we use. I'm going to trim this from the outside. Okay, good. Yeah, maybe now a little bit of zinc white. So zinc, zinc, zinc. Where's the zinc? And na, 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 na. Oh, here. Whoa. Zinc white. Why? Because that's a stage right now that I want to create lighter variations, but I don't want them to get whited out. I don't know if that exists or not, but I just invented it. So zinc white could be a great color, a great paint to bring in to lighten things without losing pigmentation. So good. So good. Um, yeah, that works totally. So when I use zinc white and I didn't know how to use it, because that has been the case, I used it really early and I thought this white sucks. I can paint white and it's ridiculous. And I just abandoned it. But now that I learned how to use it, this white is amazing. Oh, come on. Yeah, this is probably not the way I should do it because I'm doing one leaf at a time and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's no way that I could just manage the next 10 minutes with like this. So I need to find another way. Maybe what I'll do, I'm just gonna try to come up with a strategy so I don't have to do one leaf at a time. I'm gonna bring the red to all the leaves because I feel like that's gonna determine or unify everything. And then I'll just bring lighter greens. I think that's going to be a better strategy. Much better strategy, yeah. And that's a very good example of how when we paint, it's a good idea to diversify or yeah, make sure that you work on several things at the same time. Oh, I'm having so much fun. This is amazing. I feel like this is I mean, at the end of every week, we are ecstatic. We're so high because the sessions are so incredible. And then I wake up on Saturday and I'm like, what the heck am I gonna do next Friday? I have no idea because it just feels like every week is so perfect and so beautiful, and there's so much that happens. Um, but I feel the same way with this. I love this assignment. I think it's so good, um, so important. I love that it is related to our experience right now. Um, at least I see it this way. So I feel like we should write about these things. We should document, because I'm afraid. I mean, listen, we had a hard time. I had to remember the last webinar because of stupid emoji. So there's so much interesting stuff that happens right now. I feel like it's gonna be 2025, and all these like juicy bits will be forgotten. You know why we did this, and maybe the painting will come up, and we will have someone that we will want to explain it to, um, and why we did it, and yeah. All right, so I think that helped. It's really hard to see on the screen because I cannot put the camera any closer, but I'll take a picture. And I'll upload both elements. But I think that helped me a lot because it was a good strategy. And then I am going to zinc this up. I'm gonna zinc this up. There's some light blue. There's this outdoor light that's coming through and reflecting. Again, that reminds me of the importance of that light blue color. And on the other end, it's, what color is that? It's yellow. Yeah, really pale yellow. So I'm gonna bring yellow and white. I'm working on highlights on the plant rather than just developing details. I thought, which is paying off, I thought it would be good to work on the edges that are different color and then just bring the highlights. And then there's this super bright transparent yellow here. So I'm gonna see if I can bring it. Oh yeah. This is very pale. So, and what I'll do is the trunk. I mean, that's it. The last 4 minutes because I haven't worked on it at all, and it's so sophisticated. It has a little bit of the reddish color from the leaves, actually, from the tips of the leaves, mixed with some brown. And I'm just gonna do the darker area. Oh, yeah, it's good color. The darker area. And then there are highlights on both sides. One is pink. So I'm bringing some pink. The pressure of my brush is very light. And the other one is almost orange. think that's good. Just gonna blend it, tad. Oh, nice. And then I need to anchor it with the soil because otherwise it feels chopped. There is a shadow. There's a little bit of a cast shadow that spills over on the trunk. So it's not just a hole and then the stick in it. We need to integrate it. So this is a little bit darker. Yeah, that feels much more integrated. Okay, so I think that's good. My last minutes will be concentrated on the background. I'm just gonna bring another layer of white because I feel like that's my best call to define the figure without having to work too much on it. This is the different. I made the leg way too long. I need to chop it up. There we go. And I haven't even done the shadows on the table. This is the painting that's surprising me the most, honestly, because I thought I was going to be able to achieve. Usually I can push a painting forward very fast with a lot of detail. But with this one, it simply didn't happen. It simply didn't happen. It's amazing. Sometimes what you learn, this needs to be a little chopped as well. So this is what's going to happen. In a few minutes, in 1 minute, we're going to pause. We've been painting and talking for 2 hours and listening. And for 2 hours, I encourage you to pause and stretch and take a break and drink something. And yeah, just pause. So 10-minute break. And then during the 10 minutes, upload the images if you want of the work in progress. This will be only to help and see if we can just identify things that could be a new path for the painting. So I think it's helpful. And yeah, we'll take some questions. We'll look at some of the images that Jen probably uploaded, and then we'll do the critique. All right, so I'm gonna pause this and then we'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay, you guys. Jen, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
You're back.
Your paintings are incredible. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, before I share the screen, I just wanted to say that I love the work so much. Well done. I'm so excited. This makes everything better. And I feel humbled that you guys jumped on board because, you know, it's a weird theme if you think about it. And we were not sure what was going to happen. Incredible. So I'm just going to go ahead and share the folder right now. And Jen, any questions in the chat or anything that came up?
No, not from the chat. I have to say, I've had a really hard time finding the sizes of these paintings. You're right.
I saw one image. Yeah,
Yeah.
put it on one comment.
Yeah, there's two that I found, and it's really hard. I don't know why. but
Wow. Yeah, I don't know why there's not that much information about this painter, I have to tell you. There's not much info. So yeah, it's interesting. Anyhow, so I'm just gonna find out the, yes, this one right here. So this one is 45 by 34. It's, yeah, it's a decent size, but it's a centimeter. So I think it's not that big. It's not that big at all. It's not that big at all. So it makes sense. And this one is 60 by 75, a little bit larger, but yeah, 23 by 29. Yeah, this is a little bigger. Yes. Yeah. And you can see the details and everything. You can tell if a painting is larger when you see an image, there's so much more detail. So yeah, thanks. Thanks. Yeah, but they're not super large scale. So that was very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, these are the Egyptian toys, huh? Amazing. Absolutely. I've never seen any of this. So I'm so happy that you uploaded some, because I truly feel like, you know, the way we render figures can impact the way art is created later. So super interesting. This is incredible. This one right here, incredible. This was my still life with the figure and the pot, and this is how it's basically the state that I left it. And you can tell here a little bit more the work that I did on the, I don't know if you can, yeah, the little work that I did on values. This is second notes on the base and also on the base of the, sorry, I don't know if I can move this. Yeah, I can. The edges that it was very hard to see on the screen because of the quality and everything. The pod, the way I anchored the pod in the soil, and then the figure itself, the little features that I did, I lowered. Look at where the eyes were. I lowered them, so now it feels a little bit more proportionate compared to the forehead. So this is my stage, very underdeveloped. I still need to do a lot, but so is Chloe here? I know that Hania is here, but
no,
no. Okay.
he is not here.
So what I'm gonna do is, Hania, I'm just gonna go really quickly over it because I know that you're in the UK and it's getting late. I absolutely love, number one, I love that you are painting with us. This is so much fun, and I love this image so much. Uh, I just can't even start talking about all the little details, the background, the base, the box under the feet of the figure, the little ceramic detail. So it's just fantastic. And this is blowing my mind right now. Amazing, amazing. The darkness and the sketch. Um, be careful about the composition because you may be entering in some dangerous territory at the bottom of it. Um, so it feels very kind of like squeezed. I think it's okay, but I love this setup, by the way. Thanks for sharing that with us. Um, we love when we see the setups that you guys work with. So thank you so much. Stunning. The painting is stunning. The stage that you have it, it's stunning. I love that you started with such a dark background first. Absolutely brilliant. Um, the line quality, the underdeveloped color fields that spill out of the line. It's very beautiful. It feels super sophisticated, but careful with how you're going to resolve this because it feels like it's getting very close all along, and it may be love the palette. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, and I like that. I think you're using like a film or something to put the paint on top of it. So very good. I love this. First, when I was organizing the images, I wasn't quite sure what this was because when you see it in a smaller scale, it looks like a picture of the sky. So I actually thought that you just took a picture of the clouds. Um, but I can see the brushstrokes right now, and this alone, this close up, this section is so beautiful, Hania, so gorgeous. So yeah, my observation here would be to continue the work. I think it's incredible and amazing. I can't wait for you to see what it does. From a distance, it already looks very powerful. But the only thing I would say, careful on how you resolve the bottom part, because it may be too squeezed and feel a little bit like you run out of space. I know that you'll find an amazing solution. It's not like, when I say solution, it's not like it's a problem, but yeah, see how you develop that. Um, so I can wait. I can wait. Your work keeps getting better and better, Hania. Thank you so much. We look forward to it every week. And I don't know if you're getting compliments in that neck of the woods, but let me tell you, 5 stars. So thanks so much for joining us. If you have any questions, let us know. But as you keep uploading, we'll try to keep up with the images and give you feedback.
Okay, Julio, 2 requests, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Is it possible for you to lower your microphone so you're speaking into it a little bit more? Or we have one painter that's having a hard time hearing.
Okay, so let me see if I can just move it, and
Great.
I'll put it in.
Perfect. And then second request, if you can you do Sarah Jennings next? She just
Yeah,
has to.
I was going to. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I had her.
Thanks
Yeah.
so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. That's.
Thank you.
Let me see. I'm gonna put it right here on the paint. This is basically super. It's super close right now. Let me see if I have it on. The microphone is. Yeah. It's. Yeah. Is it better? The sound now? It's a little bit better. It should be.
No, I mean it was always good for me, but it's definitely loud.
Okay, perfect. So Sarah Jennings, I love what happened here so much. This was your initial photograph, and you don't need to explain anything. And then you chose this one, and yes, that was a good call because this painting is so ridiculously good and fun and exciting, and I love the playfulness of it. I like the fact that there's no separation. It's all sort of like the same figure. My congratulations on the composition, I would say. It's not easy. And I know that, it's something that it's hard to contemplate, but I think it's a really great location in the painting surface. Love what you did with the background. I love the pearlized scales on the pot. They're fantastic. The nice section on the pot, it's beautiful as well. It's great, Sarah. It's fantastic.
Thank you. I changed it because I have to admit this has been such a crazy week. I didn't read the details on the assignment, so
Yeah.
I knew that it had to be a plant and an inanimate object. But when I looked at this, I thought, the idea is not only the composition, but to simplify, and that combination was challenging, but it was really fun to work on it.
You are gonna get so many compliments on this painting. Let me just tell you, because it's fun, and it's fun, but it's just happy. It's just
Yeah.
It's interesting. It makes you think, but it's great, Sarah. It's great.
Thank you.
I have
Thank
no notes. I would say, in regards of that, I would just develop it maybe a little bit more, maybe the greens, if you want, a little bit more. But maybe if there are any shadows on the ground to create variations. But I love the scales of the pot, the way it and the wooden base. It's just gorgeous. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for creating something so fun. Yeah.
We need a little fun right now, don't
Yeah,
we?
yeah. I'm glad because I mean, this is a good way. You took the assignment, but then you changed it, and it's just so cool. So I hope you had fun with the session. And this is yeah, very, very, a lot of things that we learned with this artist and with the paintings and stuff like that. So I'm glad you're here.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Go, go, go. Bye.
Bye.
So I'm gonna go. I know that I need to refresh a lot of things, but Dina, I'm gonna go to your painting. First, the composition. Wow, this is so cool. This is why we look forward to Fridays so much, you guys, because it's not just the painting, and I think this is a shared experience. To see what other people use as inspiration, it's as exciting as to see the painting. I absolutely love this. Yeah, I love the combination, and I think it's just beautiful. It's just this photo alone is just so interesting. Did you have fun with the assignment?
Yeah, I was trying to look for a doll, but I thought, well, I'll use this instead. And it actually, if you line
Oh,
up
no.
the bird and the bird, actually,
Oh, stop.
and then you could put the. I had the door open, but you know.
Oh. Oh my gosh, Dina, forget it. This is just, that's it. I'm done. Let's wrap it up. It's fantastic. I mean, I was looking for a painting yesterday that's driving me nuts because I can't find it, but I came across a painting we did of birdcage. We did once a session at the lodge, and it consisted of painting Patricia. The lodge has a pet which is a pigeon, and then she lives in this beautiful bird cage. So we put her in the middle of the room, and then we painted the bird cage with her inside. And I love the painting so much. It just it got better with age, I guess, because it's beautiful. So this reminds me of that painting, and in that sense, it's a good subject for a painting. So
I don't know how I'm gonna be doing the cage, you know, the individual lines. So I mean, that's a tackle, but again, it doesn't need to be every one. It's just, and I actually corrected it a little bit more symmetrical and made the box on the left side a little bit bigger. So I got some things to work on, but and it actually looks brighter than the actual painting itself.
I think
more bright than they really are in true person.
I think you did the right thing, just because I noticed that on the image, the light's coming from behind. And
yeah.
It could be a little challenging, but it's a good idea that you actually brought some light on top of it. And I also think it's a good idea to darken the background, because that solves the issue. So then you don't have to worry too much. So I think that was that's a good call. And in regards of like the lines, so don't worry too much about it, because we didn't do every single bar on the bird cage. So concentrate on the cylindric aspect, the lines in the front and the back, the way you did it here. And then almost instead of painting the bars, paint the space between the bars, and then the bars will magically appear. So
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because there's a little bit more space between them, and it's easier to paint, and then you'll get the bars.
Right.
And in that sense, I mean, this reminds me of that beautiful potted plant that you did, that it transforms so much. So I'm looking forward to the...
Coincidentally, it is shaped very similar. And the one that I did before was a pot that my daughter gave. The plant was the pot that my daughter gave me. And this one also was a pot that somebody gave me. So it just so happens that they are very similar in shape.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I just, I think it's incredible. I think you're in a very good path compositionally. which is the most important part of this assignment more than anything else.
Mhm.
I love the way you left space, and I know that this will, yeah, we'll see how
Yeah.
you, yeah, because you could go either way. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to crop it also if you wanted to. I know that you kept it tight and you
Yeah.
can, but you can, if
I
you
think
want.
I think it would be better. I know you were saying it's better not to crop because you want the viewer's focus to just concentrate on the objects inside the parameters of the painting surface. But in this case, I agree with you. I think just a few stems going off, maybe a couple, one or two top, and then one on the right. That'll make it look a bit more believable. That
Yeah.
you know, otherwise it looks kind of chopped up right now.
Yeah, well, you
Right.
know, yeah, I think that's a good, it's a good decision. So one thing that I would say is that I look at the axis line on this spot, right? So
Mhm.
I feel like this, and this may be the way that you took the picture, and I
Mhm.
may be not talking properly or not saying something,
Mhm.
but I feel like this axis line, it's pretty straight,
Mhm.
and I see that it kind of like conforms with the edge. So that feels pretty centered and solid.
Mhm.
But then I feel like this axis line right here, it's a
Mhm.
little bit skewed
Mhm.
compared, and it's not an issue, but it is because you have two different directions on axis lines on
Mhm.
both objects.
On the cage, I already brought in. I came more
Oh,
with more black on the left side.
yeah.
So on the cage, it'll make the center line go more to the right.
Yeah. I think
So
that's good. Yeah, I think that's good. And again, I'm saying this just because you have the vertical orientation
right.
and on both sides, which in with almost like an unconscious level, it sets up a very hard direction. And
Yes.
then the axis line of the pot, no problem. But the other one, because you have so many kind of like
Yeah.
like structural vertical lines,
Yeah.
lightest tilt, it becomes visible.
Yeah. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Thanks, Dina.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I'm just gonna do, I'm gonna have like, Mia, I'm just gonna, I don't know if you're there or not, but this is amazing. You were the first one who registered, by the way. So thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
I love your paintings, and this painting, for me, it shows growth on your work. So I love the combination of objects. So cool. The fact that you chose this this sculpture, I think it's uh, in a conceptual way. I just feel like it goes so well with the orchid, because I feel it's a nice counterbalance or balance. Let's put it this way: the organic and softer, and then the darker, the brown. Different materials. I don't know. I just feel like it goes really well. And also by association, you associate the plant and the orchid, and then you associate the sculpture. So I think you are bringing together a lot of things conceptually, I'm saying, and it works really well. So the space looks great. The background looks great. The shadow, I think it's beautiful because it anchors the images on a surface. My favorite part, the orchids and the sculpture. I think they're incredible. Compositionally, I'm gonna go there. Compositionally, I feel like if I connect these
Oh, yeah.
3 points, they're aligned
Yeah.
and they're both equidistant almost from the edge. So that, yeah, it feels a little bit forced.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this or analyzing with a forensic eye. No one will see this. No one will. There's nothing wrong with it.
Well, now I see it. Thank you very much.
So we don't have to have the original or anything. It's better not to, but this is actually easier if you wanted to tweak or play with it. Like this two, for example, it's clear that they're not aligned. There's something interesting about this divergent growth. You have the base that feels diverging, but then this also, the leaves. On the other side, maybe if you want to bring this leaf in or make it more like foreshortened, in a way that breaks up this equidistant
Yeah.
I would also bring more yellow to the green in certain parts, because I feel like it's getting very blue in some areas. So maybe, yeah. And at the same time, gosh, you have something here that I have no idea what I would do, because so the petals on the flowers are gorgeous and beautiful, but then the background is very similar. So how do we make that pop without changing things too much? Because I think you did a good job, actually.
I was was so ready to just paint the whole background red. I was like, doesn't work for me. But then again, sometimes I see photos or paintings where they're very similar,
Yeah.
and you're like, but it somehow works. But this doesn't. But it's, yeah, I need to make it. But then I don't want it to be too dark, and then the sculpture gets lost.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's got to be a very different color.
I agree. I think I would say, because this works right here, I would say you could slightly darken this part. It's like a tiny bit, the same way that you did at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe slightly lighten up this other part. Not everything needs to be completely equal. It's barely, I would say I would treat it in a way that it's barely perceivable by the eye, but still it helps you create a slight contrast between the white and the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're there. You're almost there. I mean, this has contrast. This has contrast. This is the petal that gets lost, the single one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just bringing more white to it. Yeah, could do it. The rest, I think it's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. And maybe what I would do also, I would smooth it out.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if you smooth it out, then you can bring the strokes. They will be a little bit more visible on the, almost as if the background was fuzzy and unfocused and smoky. And then instead of like worrying about values, then you can make this pop by creating more of a sharper stroke. That would help you also a lot. Super smoky on the background. And then you don't have to worry about values on the strokes on the flower.
Okay.
Give it a try. The sculpture, this is kind of like done. It's perfect. I love it so much. And I love the beads on it, or the decorations.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, beads. Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, gorgeous. Thanks, Mia. And just gonna move. Any questions? Yeah. So Lois, I'm just gonna go to yours. Let me do a refresh in case that you anyone, and we have some time. Oh, there's so much going on, you guys. Okay. Oh, I see it, Mia, right now. Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh, actually, because you have, let me see your painting. Hold on one second. It's up to you, Mia, if you're still watching, but it's up to you. I love this. This is just so cool. I mean, these two right here, if you wanted to bring that, I mean, it's just fine right now. It's fine. Never mind. Forget it. Yeah. But that looked really spectacular. If you wanted to bring that, because those are much lighter, you know, you have the light really, it looks like you projected a light and those really pop. So Yeah, and I notice here, I would say, yes, more yellow on the green. I feel like the green, it has a tad too much white and it becomes almost like bleached or chalky. So if you added a tad more yellow, it'll come alive and it'll be much more pigmented. And also I love the purple or the lavender on the pot. So I think if you were to work on it, I would possibly, I mean, you did it, but I would bring some of that lavender color. It's just gonna create more of an identity, a color identity that's gonna separate it from the background. Anyhow, so yeah, I'm just gonna go to Lois and see. Let me just put the painting here. Oh, this is so wonderful. Oh my gosh, Lois.
Yeah. Hi.
Sorry. I love it so much. Did you have fun painting this?
Yes, especially because I've been trying to grow sunflowers and they just, from the heat, just keep dying.
Oh.
And they're making me sad. And so I finally just cut it and used it because to go with her. So it made me happy to do that. And I had this weird doll that I just found at a thrift shop that somehow I just liked. And it's been in my desk and I just pulled her out for this. Fun.
Oh, this is so, I mean, seriously, I just love this painting. It's just so wonderful. All right. But by the way, I hope you had a good trip. Like,
It's so amazing. It's so good. It's only an hour away near Wrightwood in the Los Angeles forest, and we just had a tent for 2 days. It was fantastic.
wow.
Forest bathing.
Oh my
I highly
gosh.
recommend it.
I think that it's the best way to recharge and get your creative juices really like
Yeah, totally.
flowing. So anyhow, so I would say
So,
I love the
trouble with
objects.
shadow, like the light source, you know, like you said, I didn't have good lighting,
Oh,
you know, so
no.
I wasn't sure where to put shadow or if to put shadow.
Yeah, no, I think that works. And yeah, so I'm just going to point a couple of things.
Okay.
And to me, it looks extraordinary. But I'm just going to go to a couple of things. I feel compositionally, I feel like this, it's getting a little bit too close to the edge. It works, but consider this. I'm just going to say something dramatic right now. Consider this. Do you really need that leaf on that painting? Because imagine, I mean, this is dramatic because it's really, I'm interfering with someone else's business, but I'm thinking that you don't need it.
Yeah, no.
And without it, not only it would just kind of like bring more focus to the actual flower, it would create a very intriguing imbalance, and it would give you the space that would feel really harmonious or balancing to the other side. Just consider that, because I feel like, you know, it's a little bit off center, and that's okay. But I feel like the painting could potentially be so much more intriguing.
I like that. Yeah, I agree.
That's it. That's basically it. In regards of the major thing here is composition. So for me, I feel like a responsibility to kind of like say something about it. And I feel that would help you. In regards of color, I love the color harmony. I think it's fantastic. I love the doll. I think it's interesting. I think it's also well painted. I think it's also sophisticated. It doesn't feel like an illustration or something that you would expect from painting a doll, you know. It doesn't feel childlike. Yeah. It just feels really mature and really brainy and smart and intelligent and well put together. In regards of color, this is very blue. The leaf, it's extremely blue. So it becomes almost a trumpet. It stands out, and everything is so harmonized.
Yeah, it's not bright. That's Viridian.
Right, Viridian, yeah. but you have such wonderful dark greens on her
Yeah.
clothes.
I needed to match her more.
I think if you do, then it's just going to be almost as, it's going to be magical, like
Yeah.
magical realism. Because I feel like I see this, and there's
Yeah.
a symbiotic relationship between both objects. And it's something that I feel conceptually is very interesting. Who is who and what is what, you know?
Yeah. That was fun. Okay, good points. Thanks, Julio.
Did you enjoy it? Did you have a good time? Any
Yes.
challenges?
Yes, and I love learning about new painters and new things. I love the term anti-Nazi, you know, because we're talking about anti-racism, right?
Right.
We're anti-Nazi. That was interesting.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, Lois, I almost even made reference to that when I said that. I was like, this sounds familiar.
Yeah, like what we're talking about. Like that's what needs to be talked about. Interesting. Really good.
Exactly, exactly.
I would go even, I'm just going to jump in that water right now, but I feel like this group of people were the Antifa of the 1920s and 30s, the anti-fascist.
Right.
And I just feel like, you know, there's so many misconceptions about what these groups right now are trying to do. And I just feel like, you know, no, you know, there's a group of people that are they're anti-fascism, you know, they're not bad. They're the good guys. But anyhow, that's a different conversation in my opinion. But yes, I love that term.
Okay, nice to see everybody for sure. It is. This is our time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Good job. All right.
Thank
So
you.
thanks. And I'm gonna bring, I think this Claire. I'm gonna bring this. I'm gonna pause it, Claire, and then I'm just gonna bring the other two together. Oh, this makes me laugh already. In a good way, Claire, in a good way. So good.
I didn't have a whole lot of time to work on it yet, but I've been on this fast for 10 days and I want to eat that piece of cheese so bad. So badly.
Oh
But
my
I did
God.
not leave it on the floor for the cats.
Okay, no, that's hilarious.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, I don't have anything alive to put next to it. Okay, cheese, that's good enough.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Did you find this more challenging than you thought? Because I feel like, you know, it's not that easy, even though you chose like simple, quote unquote, simple things. This
Now
is challenging.
that I've painted further from the photo, yeah, it's more challenging now that I'm more in it. But I feel like what's good is I left a lot of space around.
Right. Yeah.
I think what's going to be hard is that molding and the floor.
Oh.
The molding and the floor are going to be hard. What I find easy about it is it's a toy, so I can kind of take liberty. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, I think the image is great. I love the simplicity. I like how you arranged it. I think that's really good. It's deceivingly simple because there's a lot going on. And I agree with you. Like the molding, I feel like it almost feels like very sculptural. So sculpture-like. So I would definitely work on it and blend it, create more variations there. I think I would keep it as neutral as possible.
Okay.
So you bring the color, to me, the color is on the toy. So I feel like that should have the color. And I feel the ground and the background could be a little bit more muted and neutral in color. So keep it gray with variations. Because it's going to be present, but it's not going to interfere. Because I feel like now it comes forward a bit too much.
Yeah.
I would darken should we? I don't know. Should we? Let me see. I mean, on the image, the floor, it's much darker.
Mm-hmm.
But then this is a different kind of like assignment. So let me just think about it.
I think I'd rather have it a little darker with the Payne's gray.
Yeah, give it a try. Make it darker, but keep it neutral.
Okay.
So yeah, keep it neutral, because I think, yeah, I agree with you. A little distinction between the baseboard and the ground would just help. Yeah. But yeah, the show here is put out by the toy. So I think I would add more detail. I would work on highs and lows. Probably you didn't have time, but much lighter on top, much darker. So it creates a sense of a fuzzy ball. So that's something that I would do, like darker and lighter. So create a sphere. Try to work on the toy by taking it apart. What's the bigger shape of the toy? Work on that first and create the highs and lows. And then work on this cone. Don't worry about the eye or the nose. So it's a cone that's attached. So notice that it's darker right here and it's lighter right here. So I would work on that next. And it's not continuous, because there are two different surfaces. This is almost like felted and this is fuzzy.
By the way, I did not position that toy. It was in place. Somebody around here, one of my cats put it there. I did nothing in the placement.
Oh my gosh. That's something you need to write down in the back of your painting.
Oh, yeah, I had nothing to do with the placement.
Because I think conceptually that is gold.
I almost painted the bicycle that's over it, but that would have been too hard.
The more I think about it, Claire, these are truly self-portraits.
Totally.
I don't know, because I feel like, Lois brought the story of the sunflowers and how, and then I don't know. And then you brought the story of the fasting, and I don't know, there's something about it that's beyond just two simple objects. But that's a different
obsession involved.
Yeah. The what?
An obsession. There's an obsession in both Lois and mine.
This is a different, I think it's a different Zoom meeting, but I would love to get into sort of like try to tangle together our experience and with why we painted it, because I'm convinced that it says more about us than just being a random selection of objects.
Yeah, I couldn't wait to do it. I was driving down the freeway listening to you, and I just couldn't wait to get home and paint it.
Oh, that means so much, because I don't know, sometimes we think it's going to be interesting, but we don't know. So that means so much. So yeah, and then the cheese, yeah, more distinctions. I love that the point of more distinctions between the value. There's a lot of orange in this cheese. I would definitely bring orange.
Yeah.
Make it more cheddary.
Yeah, it's cheddar.
Yeah, so a little bit.
In a few days.
Yeah, a little bit more. It's almost like peachy. It's like a peachy orange.
Yeah.
So maybe even orange and a tad of red or burnt sienna.
This is the earlier one. Can you look at the later version?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, it's still orange now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then, but yeah, I was talking about this doesn't feel continuous on the photograph. So
Right.
make sure that, I mean, sorry to say that. That shouldn't come out of my mouth. But I would make a distinction between the different components, because right now everything falls under the same outline. And that makes everything flat. So if you work on it, what I would do is you have one component here, even the tail, although it seems like it has a continuation, but it's not. We see that it's actually plucked into, or whatever that verb is,
Yeah, I see it now. I didn't see it before.
And then the values darker because it's closer to the body, and then lighter as it goes away. So I would spend the majority of time with those, I would say second notes, more second notes on the mouse.
Okay.
But awesome. fantastic, incredible painting. I just cannot wait.
Great assignment. Thank you, Julio.
Oh, Claire, thank you. That means so much. And what I'm gonna do is we have this Amanda. I don't even know. I can't even see the name, but I know it's you. Oh yes. So let me just put them together. Oh, this is so lovely.
Amanda looks like Lois's doll had a bad night.
What is the grown-up version, right?
I thought they were the same doll. Like, what happened? Okay, I'll mute myself. Bye.
Well, one thing that I wanted to ask you right away before you even, I'm looking at, of course, the photo. I had a piece of sort of orange cardboard. And so I just decided to, and my photo situation was so untrue to colors anyway, but I just thought, let me change the surface that this doll and glass are on and just see if those colors of the doll's hair pop more, if it's blue or whatever. And I'm just not sure that I'm happy with that. I'm almost thinking maybe it's better to go with this warmer, what do you call it, base. You know.
I totally see that. Yeah. Well, first of all, I totally follow you and empathize, and I would have done the same thing in regards of bringing a different tone, because I would say it makes sense to think this way, because then we create contrast. But then after, I mean, to me it works. To me it works.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Because I think especially the flower. I wanted the flower to pop more, and I was afraid that if I stayed with this sort of warm orangey kind of brown, that it wouldn't pop as much. But I have a lot of work to do to figure out how to give her this.
Yeah, I think
his hair was cut off by my kid.
Yeah, no. Well, first of all, with the oil paint that we use, it's going to be very hard to make the color of a flower, especially a flower, really stand out, because everything feels very muted with the pigments, the mineral pigments. So if we wanted to make it more of a punch, then we have to work with value. And then that means that if you want the flower to pop, then the background should be darker. It's the only semi-solution to make something really stand out. But I don't think you need to. I think, yeah, what I would do, because it's very harmonious, the color is very harmonious. I would possibly, what I would do in that sense, I don't know. I feel like, you know, I love that there's this darker anchor, the stem. But I feel like there's too much dark on the flower. It just feels very drawn, number one, and it feels like it interferes with the actual tone of the flower. It's too encapsulated. So I would fade that, keep the dark only on the anchor. So in other words, this has the darker area, and then if you wanted to do this as well, but this I would just make it almost ethereal in the sense that it doesn't have any dark edges that contain that. And if anything, you can smudge or blend the edges onto the background. So almost creating a vignette. It doesn't change the background entirely, but you give it sort of like a vignette effect around it. So then all the pastel and the pale tones, they kind of like stand out. And because right now the darker elements, they make it very heavy, and it also it competes with the stem because you have the color of the stem. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. The shadow of the doll lying down, I find that I've gotten kind of messy because I've gone from a brownish to a grayish to a quinacridone plus black.
Right.
And it's a little, right now I don't have the clear shadow and the, what do you call, the secondary hint of a shadow. That's what I'm trying to do, is to differentiate between the actual shadow that gives the form, gives it substance.
Right.
You know.
I know, I totally see it. Wow, that's just gonna be, yeah, I totally see it. I think I would make, I mean, what's interesting with the shadow or with the doll, it's the fact that I can identify 3 main points of contact with the surface.
Yeah.
The back of the head, the shoulders, and then the hip area.
Yeah.
And then in those areas, I can see the light coming from the other side.
Okay.
So I would almost use that structure. I think you probably did it. Yeah. But I would fade maybe this a little bit more.
Sure.
And also fade the edges here. Anything that feels hard, it's gonna look like an object. So I would smudge the edges of that, the back of the head, the shadow on the back of the head.
Yeah.
And bring a little bit more of the blue through the back of the neck. Because right now this doesn't follow an order or a structure or an architecture of point of contact versus non-contact.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that alone, if you let the blue sort of like peek through the back of the neck and the arch of the back of the doll, that alone will help you, will detach it a little bit, because right now there's too much.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, sure.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. It's just gonna be challenging. I can tell you that. But and at the same time, what I would do also, and this is something that I would change compared to the photograph, I would make the shadows very pale, because you want them, but you don't want them to be so present, because right now they're way too strong. So you want to create a distinction between the doll and the surface. And for me, the way that I would tackle this, I would really make them very pale. And even if it means making the surface a little bit lighter also. So then the doll will really stand out against that background.
Okay. So the shadows, none of them, go back to the photo, would you, for a second?
Yes.
Look along there. It's like, of course, those arm things are the darkest, and I want that to be clearly the darkest.
Right.
But you see the shadow under the hips and under the, you want me to make, that would be better if those shadows are lighter rather than.
Yes. And not only that, but my brain is already thinking of something else. Not only make this lighter, but make them analogous to the surface. Because the problem here is that you have a surface that's a color, and then you have the shadow that's a different color.
Yeah,
so,
that was my problem. So I should maybe use dark blue for the shadow.
Yes.
And then turn it into a almost gray on the sort of hint of a shadow. That
yes. Same color, different values.
That's what, changing the color of the table, that's what screwed me up, because I was suddenly like, wait a second, those shadows are orange when the table is orange, of course. And the shadows are blue when the table is.
I mean, only for the purposes, since the doll is laying down, the purposes of creating a clear separation between the doll, because there are a lot of points of contact. It's not just the feet. So then problem solved, you don't have to worry about it. But now you do.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay.
Oh, I tell you, I took so many photos I found, because my daughter has a huge bin of discarded Barbies, and
I love it.
And oh my God, I found Prince Charming Ken doll that had been pretty roughed up, and he had no pants. So he has a wonderful, like, 19th century long coat with a cravat attached.
Oh,
And I
stop.
was ready to do that. Okay, I'm
No,
gonna
no,
do
no,
some-
no. Stop, because it sounds so good. You have to paint it.
I'm gonna paint some of them. I know, he's such a character. And he's got no pants, and that just, there's the enigma right there.
I want to see this painting.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good to
Amanda, thank you. Always a pleasure. And we are really honored when you join us. So
Oh,
thank you so much. All right. So yeah, and then I think we're just gonna have to keep it here, you guys. Yes, if that's okay. You can continue uploading. Let me just like stop here. Sorry if we didn't get to critique yours if you had one, but yeah, let's kind of like pause here, and we will send you the information, the recap notes. Try to work this weekend if you can't. On Tuesday, we're gonna get back to talking about things referring to maybe this webinar and other stuff. And then Wednesday, studio time, I will be working on this painting. And it's been amazing and incredible to finally have the opportunity to have some time to work on this and see how much more it develops. We spend almost like an hour and 40 minutes just prepping this, and then we have 15 minutes to work on it. That's the way I see it. But with the studio time, we start building on it from minute one. So it shows, it's incredible. So, and also if you painted the ceilings series, that's the next one that we're gonna feature. And we already got some people sending us photos. Take your time, take a look at it. If you wanna add a couple of touch-ups, then send us the photo by the end of Sunday, and then we'll just add it to our gallery and we'll start promoting. We want to keep that active, and also yeah, to be able to promote your work, because we want other people to see it. So we'll feature the ones that are for sale on the newsletter, and then we promote those ones on social media. So Jen, thank you so much for your awesome work.
Thank you. Super fun.
This was a fantastic, super fun assignment and lesson. We're so thankful that you guys also thought it was worth for you to consider and register. So the paintings makes us so happy. The photos makes us so happy. And yeah, so thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Oh yeah, and then yeah, let me see. Have a great yeah. Oh, never mind. And yeah, so have a great weekend. Stay safe, and yeah, upload, and let's keep in touch with comments and stuff. Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna.
Hi guys, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. You guys are incredible and amazing, and this is so meaningful and beautiful and powerful and important, and we thank you for it.
Doll.
I love the doll.
She's cute. She's Japanese.
That's before going clubbing.
That's before.
For real.
Right, Claire?
Yeah. Oh my God, this was so much fun. I have so many Barbie dolls now. I think I'll do that.
Good. No, good. Yeah, good. I'm so happy. So I really enjoyed it, and I learned so much about stuff as well. Thanks, Jen. You did a fantastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always learn. So it's good.
Yeah, it was like a history lesson. It was a good
It was
one.
good. It was great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank
Hey.
you. Bye.
Bye guys.
See you soon.